Deebo Samuel, a Los Angeles Ram. It's at least more than a 0% chance. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop a like. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation, the LA Sports Report. As always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's going to be entering his 12th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, we're kind of talking about all the latest news and nuggets about the Rams, starting to get into off-season mode, starting to get into draft mode. We got the 5 positions the Rams need to be focused on at the combine, and a rule change the Rams are proposing. We'll get into that. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Travis. So with the dust settling on the season, kind of looking back, continuing to process, it's kind of wild when you look back at that Week 16 loss to the Seahawks, and not just the collapse that the Rams went through, but the improbability of that loss based on a play that happened late in that one, the 2-point conversion. Many people, including myself, think it's the craziest 2-point conversion ever, mainly for the simple fact that everyone thought that Zach Charbonnet was making some heads-up play. No, he's just being polite and put his hand on the football, and he ends up getting that 2-point conversion. Well, the Rams are reportedly trying to push for a rule change. This is from CBS. It says, quote, sources tell CBS Sports the Rams are planning to propose rule changes that would effectively make the play an unsuccessful 2-point try. The Rams plan to propose at least one rule change this offseason, sources say, and there may be a second proposal aimed at certain details around that play. Teams regularly submit rule proposals toward the start of the new league year, and many of those proposals come in around the same time of next week's NFL scouting combine. While the language remains unclear, one source of knowledge of the proposal said the Rams' goal is to fix what went wrong in a few places. And one thing that a lot of people within the Rams have an issue with is the fact that it came out that Amazon Rules analyst Terry McCauley made a call to the league during the game that instigated the review. The report came from PFF, Pro Football Talking. Hey, that to me, it should never be a thing. I mean, the fact that someone is trying to instigate a review, you got to have your analysts in place. There should be a certain amount of guys that have the ability to initiate it. You should have exterior guys call, and that's really what happened in this situation. I know that was a lot for me, but now let's roll, Travis.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Doug. Couple of things. Number one, I'm glad that you brought up Zach Charbonnet being polite, because that's exactly what that was. No one will ever be able to convince me that he knew it was a backward pass and he was completing the play. And that, I just reject that, because there was no sense of urgency. He just kind of sauntered over and picked it up and handed it to the ref. And to get 2 points for that was, I mean, I guess fine, whatever, but let's not pretend he was the only one on the field that knew what was happening. As far as that goes, he might have been not knowing what was going on, but neither did anybody on the Seahawks. If that came from somewhere other than the Seahawk bench or the Seahawk booth, if that came from a television rules analyst who's saying, oh, hey, by the way, you might want to go back, that's not his job. His job is to interpret what's being called on the field. His job is to offer, some insight into the rules themselves. If he wanted to come back from the break after that and say, hey, you know what? The Seahawks might have missed one there. That might have been an opportunity for them to go back and look at that as a backwards pass, et cetera, et cetera. And, missed opportunity by Mike Macdonald and the Seahawks. Fine. But to be the reason that this gets initiated in the first place, it's just not the job. And I'm with the Rams, and not just because it went against the Rams, and not just because it was probably the reason that the NFC Championship game was in Seattle instead of LA, and not just because the Seahawks won the Super Bowl and the Rams were clearly probably the second best team in the league, but rather that's not the job. Why not have Al Michaels do it? Why not have Kirk?
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing here? You're a TV personality at this point. You're not a referee in the game. It seems bizarre to me that any sort of challenge could be initiated by anything other than one of the two head coaches.
Absolutely. That just universally should be changed no matter what. And I think you look at just the play itself that has a lot of people still annoyed is just the simple fact that it was clearly a dead ball. The refs blew the whistle, and sure, you should always coach your players to get the football whenever it's there, and I'm sure that's going to be a coaching moment for coaches around the league just to avoid anything like this.
Right.
But look, the bottom line, it was a fluky play, it was a weird play, but I just want to say that it does feel a little like sour grapes on the Rams' end. To me, it feels a little like when the Eagles were beating teams across the league and they wanted to get the tush push banned, right? If the Rams benefited from this call, would they be trying to overturn it if it was the Rams they were benefiting? If that was Kyron Williams or Blake Corum that put his hand on that football and the Rams got that 2-point conversion and came back and won? I don't think so, right? So I look at the refs. The Rams still got 3 possessions. Both teams did after the game was tied, right? Did the refs cause the Rashid Shaheed kind of a touchdown and the missed field goal and things like that? It didn't. So, look, good for the Rams for trying to kind of maybe heal themselves a little bit, and maybe this helps them put them behind them a little bit. But if I'm a Seahawks fan right now, I'm kind of thinking to myself like, hey, man, this feels a little like sour grapes.
It is. I agree with you, but that also doesn't mean that it's not the right thing to do. It doesn't mean that it's not a bad rule. The rule itself is fine. It's just who initiated the rule to begin with. And yeah, I get it. Sometimes you're on the good side of these, sometimes you're on the bad side of these, but it would be one thing if it were just an egregious mistake on behalf of the officials. Think, Tommy Lee Lewis and Nickel Roby-Coleman back in the NFC Championship game when the Rams went to Super Bowl 53. The guy on the field blew the call. The league kind of said, okay, let's review this. And that was a whole mess in and of itself. They unwound that too. But I get it. It is sour grapes. It is try to self-soothe and all of these things. But the fact of the matter is, if this is what happened, if this got initiated from somewhere off of the Seattle sidelines, that needs to change. And again, and here's why that I think the sour grapes thing is right. If that play gets called in real time, if it's called an incomplete pass, if the 2-point conversion isn't successful, that was the play that kind of started the beginning of the end of that game. If that play is ruled incomplete, the Rams win that game. The Rams win that game. Who knows what happened? Maybe nothing's different. Maybe the Rams still lose to Seattle in the NFC Championship game, but that was the end of that game. If that wasn't an assist from outside of the Seattle coaching staff, that game probably ends with the Rams winning it. But I do agree with you. It is sour grapes, but I still think that rule should be changed.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I think if I was in that position too, I lose at Mario Kart to someone and I find 15 reasons why it was BS. Why did they get a blue shell when they were in first place, right? But every time I'm in first place, I get a blue shell. I get hit by red shells or things like that. Trust me, I'm the sorest loser of all sore losers. You have no idea. And look, here's the thing. If it just depends on what specifically what the rule change. If they want the play to be dead when the officials blow it dead, I'm good with that. If they want to bar people from calling the replay officials in New York, I think that's kind of hilarious to me. I didn't even know that was even a possibility. I didn't even know there was enough time for someone to really kind of get that and take it seriously enough to be okay, this guy called me. I think that's kind of absurd and ridiculous, to be honest with you. I'm actually surprised and shocked that was even a possibility.
Yeah, well, you said it. The fact that there's enough time for somebody off of the staff to go, hey, that might be this. Why don't we look at it? To have that land in the right person's lap and say, hey, you might be right. Let's take a look at it. To stop, the ball was teed up and ready to be kicked, and they added 2 points to the game. It was a bizarre turn of events. The Rams got, I don't know if I want to say they got hosed, because I guess the call was right technically, but the way that they got to the right decision certainly needs to be ironed out.
Absolutely, 100%. By the way, we had McVay after the game saying that he'd never seen anything like that. You had officials saying they'd never seen anything like that. So even if a rule does get changed, it might not even be relevant, just because you might never see anything like that again, right? Because of how improbable it was. By the way, even if the Rams do propose this change officially, it's going to take 24 of the 32 league owners to agree for it to take effect at the league meetings in March. And yep, guys, sorry for the nightmare fuel. We had to relive another nightmare moment that we're going to keep thinking about and on loop. Hopefully we purged. That was like a purge segment. Okay, let's burn some sage around that moment and kind of never think about it again. How about that?
It works for me. They flush this thing, start over. Let's get ready for the next season, because the more you think about the Super Bowl, the more you see how bad New England actually was. It's a really, really tough pill to swallow, because the Rams and the Seahawks, the differences were minuscule, and a break like that, I think, really did change what happened next.
Absolutely. And by the way, Terry McCauley, I just want to say, I mean, in the words, I forgot who said it, was like Aristotle or Socrates, one of those philosophers, but snitches get stitches, man. Come on, man. We're never going to forget that one. He's not invited to the Rams. Come on now. Let's be honest with that one. But coming up next, we got the NFL Combine coming up. We know the Rams always have a unique plan for the Combine, but which players do they need to be focusing on? And also, we talked about the possibility of bringing in Mike Evans. Could the Rams bring in another big-time playmaker from this era? And does he have some more years left in him? And a guy that played for the Rams' biggest rival. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. Because with TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or without the guesswork. And instead of spending hours trying to figure out those forms, and yes, it can take hours, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online if you'd rather do it that way. They handle all of it, from W-2s to self-employed forms, and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right there in the TurboTax app. It is a huge saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling everything. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to send a big shout out to those everydayers, by the way. It's one thing to give the everydayers a shout out like during the season before a big playoff game, but this is where the true day one everydayers represent, watching no matter what in the dog days of the offseason before the draft really gets popping. So I want to give a big shout out to all you guys out there. And just want to let you know that there's an official Everydayers Club. You've been asking for it, and you can join it today. Go to LockedOnRams.Supercast today to join that Everydayers Club. It supports myself, it supports Travis and the show, and most importantly, it takes your Rams fandom to the next level. You get access to exclusive ad-free audio, a members-only Discord with tons and tons of Rams fan where you can talk ball, also exclusive merch, and so much more. So go to LockedOnRams.Supercast today to check out the Everydayers Club. All right, Travis. So 14 minutes in, no Dodgers reference. Okay, so let's plug it in here. So I always laugh in the offseason when every Dodgers fan, they want to bring back every single former Dodger, right? It's bring back Cody Bellinger, bring back Justin Turner, bring back this guy, that guy. It happens every single time. I always say it's like you don't want to reheat the McDonald's French fries, right, in the microwave. It never tastes the same. Having said that, I do think that air fryers were invented and exist to reheat leftover French fries, but it's just never a good idea. The Rams equivalent to that is let's go and get any former really good player that's now available for a lot cheaper and say, oh, imagine this guy was Sean McVay. Imagine that guy was Sean McVay. Whether it be Mike Evans and some other guys, it's always that guy. I mean, OBJ actually worked a couple years ago, but he still had some prime years left. The guy we're going to talk about that and fill in the blank with that today is Deebo Samuel. And Deebo Samuel is a little different just because, of course, he was a 49er. But there are some interesting connections with Cliff Kingsbury into the fold. You could reunite him with Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury was extremely high on him last year with the Commanders. He would not be very expensive. And the bottom line, Travis, is until the Rams have a wide receiver 3 on their roster that I feel good about, I'm going to keep exploring options.
Yeah, first of all, I want to go back to the beginning about what you said, because I don't know what's going on in the McCain household, but what are you doing with leftover French fries? Like, how do you ever end up with anything other than 0 French fries at the end of a meal? That's the conversation.
I have an answer for you. Okay. Basically, like when you get the Happy Meal at McDonald's for my daughter, they ask if you want fruit or an extra fries. And I'm always like, yeah, just give us the extra fries. Knowing that she's not going to eat them, knowing that I've got a backup. Knowing that I've got a backup just in case, like, I reach for the bag and there's none left. So that's that.
Okay, fair enough. So, and the air fryer is the one thing that can salvage day-old fries. I will give you that. Look, I think the Rams have done a pretty good job of shopping in the 99-cent aisle as far as, players that have gone other places, and maybe there's a little bit left in them and they get that last little drop there. I don't know if Deebo's the guy. I would defer to Sean McVay. I would defer to Les Snead on whether or not they think it's there. But I think you're right. I think that there is some problems, probably too strong of a word, but just because it's familiar, because you know it, is a player like Samuel, who has been through the league a long time, more interesting than maybe a drafted player who hasn't got a chance, or a guy that's got, maybe on another team that hasn't gotten the ball thrown his way a lot. I think that's the game that you have to figure out, because I with a player like Samuel at this point in his career, I would tend to go to a younger player for the role that you're talking about specifically, because we know the ball is going to go to Puka a lot. We know that the ball is going to go to Devontae Adams a lot. We know that Kyron Williams and Blake Corum are going to get the ball. We know that they're throwing to the tight ends more than they have in the last few years. Is a WR3 going to get the ball a ton? And if the answer is no, do you want it to be somebody that might not like the fact that the ball is not getting thrown their way a lot? I don't know. Now, if they're willing to accept a role like OBJ did when he came over to the Rams in that season where they went to the Super Bowl, then sure, something to think about. But if they're looking to make one more big score, I don't think that the third wide receiver role is the place for it. There's just not enough footballs to go around.
See, that's why, that's why I'm high on Mekhi Lemon, because I think that you can get as much from him as you think you need while still developing him for the future. So I think that's kind of where I look at that position potentially. But as far as Deebo goes, it does get interesting, because we talk about Sean McVay being the offensive coordinator, right, without the title. But when you bring in guys, especially guys that you've worked with in the past, you have connections with, I think part of the reason why you do it is you kind of re-energize yourself and you keep things fresh as far as, hey, like, this is a guy that I feel like is not afraid to throw an idea my way. This is a guy that I respect too, or even if we disagree on something, like, he's going to be like, hey, I think we should get this guy. Oh, I think we shouldn't get this guy. And it's kind of one of those things where if Kingsbury tells McVay, like, no, dude, like, Deebo still got some left in the tank. Like, he's still really good. Like, then it's like, oh, wow, like, what kind of version of Deebo do we get? Because a couple years ago, if I told you that Devontae Adams and Deebo Samuel on the same team, you'd probably say that you're in a fancy football league with like 2 players in it, right? Like, that's how that would feel. And obviously, they're not the caliber they were a couple years ago, but it's not like the Rams are in a position where there's a ton of great options. I mean, this is a Rams team. If you get Deebo Samuel on a contract for like 1 year, $5 or $6 million, coming off a year where you give Tutu Atwell 1 year, $10 million. It kind of makes you think like, man, would you get more out of Deebo than Tutu Atwell? I think you probably 100% would. I mean, last year he caught 72 of 99 targets. He had a career high 72.7% catch rate, 727 total receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. He's not the runner that he was when he was at the peak of his powers, had 17 carries for 17 yards and a touchdown. But if he could clean up the fumbles, had 3 fumbles, I mean, there's worse options out there. It's kind of all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure there are. As far as getting more than Tutu Atwell, I think as long as he's on the active roster in the playoffs, I think we've cleared that bar. That's important to really be there. So I think we could do that. But I do like your point about if Kingsbury is seeing something that he likes, then that's something to take into consideration because to your point, he was with him last year. He knows what's left there. And I think that kind of lastly is if the Rams are going to do what I think they're going to do and what I hope that they're going to do, which is basically throw all in for this upcoming season, then this feels like one of those moves. Now, if it works, then it's all good. It's all good. Think Eric Weddle, think Von Miller, think OBJ, think all of these guys that they brought in on that season, and everything hit when it needed to hit, and they won the Super Bowl. Now, if you go all in on this stuff and it doesn't hit, and you even if you make the playoffs but are out relatively quickly, now all of a sudden you're chasing it for a while to come. So I do think there's a little bit of the balancing act when it comes to that kind of stuff. But if it's a hey, look, we got Matthew Stafford at the best of his ability for another year, maybe 2 more. Give him every possible weapon that he could possibly need. Sure, I'm here for it. And by the way, and this kind of goes back to our Dodger thing a second ago. They've earned the benefit of the doubt. If they like it, then it's probably a pretty good idea. If they move on from it, it probably wasn't a very good idea. So I give them all of the credit in the world for identifying these guys and going for it because they've been right far more often than they've been wrong.
They absolutely have. And by the way, we got a quote from Kingsbury just talking about Deebo last year. He said, just his mentality. He's the first one in the line on all the receiver stuff. It's been awesome. The Deebo, he and I remember being in Arizona, just the matchup issue where you don't know what personnel group they're in. To me, it's one of the most exciting things. So, I mean, look, I'm not like all in on this. I mean, if my favorite memory of Deebo Samuel remains the same, I will totally be fine. Of course, that favorite memory was when he was crying on the field after losing to the Rams and OBJ had to console him. Cry more, 49ers and Deebo Samuel. If that remains the same, I'll be fine with that. But he kind of does feel like one of those players where it's like you hate him when he's not on your team. Oh, yeah. But then it's like a Rajon Rondo. Like, I hated Rajon Rondo. Then he's on the Lakers. I'm like, I love Rajon Rondo now.
It's Chase Utley. Right.
There you go. Chase Utley. He was at spring training. I saw Chase Utley. I said, go Bruins, and he ignored me, but it's all good. Yeah, gotta love the Silver Fox.
Yeah, no, there are guys that, man, I can't stand that guy. He's bad for the league. You get him out of here. And then he's on your team. He's like, he's just such the ultimate glue guy. You got to have guys like this. So absolutely. If they bring him in, I will embrace him with open arms. I'll be happy to see it. But I just think that feels like it's a day late and a dollar short. It feels like you're chasing something that happened a few years ago, not just a year ago. Like you said, the number's still pretty good, but I don't know if he would have the impact that you would in our mind's eye. When you think about him with the Niners, it's like, man, could somebody please stop this guy? I don't know if he's been that player for a while.
I agree. And by the way, so we talked about at the top of the segment, there is a way to salvage the fries by reheating them in the air fryer, but you can't reheat the nachos. Like he might be he might be the nachos. Like there's no reheat in this dude. You know what I mean? And we talk about Aristotle and Socrates quotes. Like I also know a wise man that once said, "If they like it, I love it." The great Travis Rogers. So if they like it, we'll love it too. But I don't think they're gonna like it that much. But coming up next, we're gonna talk about what the Rams are going to be doing at the NFL Combine and some positions they need to be focusing on. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Because FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. You use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you will automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's talking flights, tickets, the entire experience. So if you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Futures this time of year are fantastic because whether you're picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And right now, you can pick up your cash as one thing, but you could also be taking a trip to the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis. So the Rams, as they typically do, the brass is going to be skipping the NFL Combine. By the way, the Jaguars, too, trying to be the Rams East or something.
Right.
But this is nothing new. We know that. This is just kind of typically how they get down. I mean, they have a different way of evaluating players.
Well, I feel like, what is today? Today's February 23rd. I feel like this is going to become like an annual thing for me because I've never understood the combine beyond just measuring the measurables, right? How fast, how big, how strong, how much does he weigh, how high does he jump? Like, if that stuff's important to you as a football scout, then fine, go to the draft, or I don't know, just look it up, right? They're going to post all this stuff. This guy ran the 40 in this amount of time. Oh, okay, that's pretty fast. Oh, that's not very fast at all. These guys have been playing football against other high-level football players for at least 3 years, in some cases 4 years. I don't know, maybe watching the film on how they play football is more important than watching how they run around in their underwear. I've never understood the combine. It just doesn't make sense to me that a guy that on film struggles but goes out there and can bench press, more times than the other guy. Well, give me the guy that doesn't miss a tackle. Give me the guy that is always open, even if he's 0.2 of a second slower than the other guy. Playing the game to me seems far more important than winning a beauty contest. And that the Rams kind of, I think, share my vision on this, that they're going to scout, they're going to watch the tape, they're going to go get eyes on guys playing football rather than parading around, in Indianapolis. It makes a ton of sense to me. I'm surprised more teams don't do it.
And McVay and Snead, they're really kind of trailblazers from that standpoint. I mean, they haven't been to Indy since 2020, and I think they're going to look back and say, oh, like, these are the guys that, like how Paul Brown and guys like that kind of revolutionized the game. I think that when you kind of make that big grand book about coaches, like McVay's going to be a guy that you point to with certain things. And there's not a big thing that he's revolutionized, but it is kind of another example of like the dude just does things differently. This organization just does things differently. And guess what? They've had a lot more success than most of the teams in the National Football League since they've taken over. So I think that's kind of where it's at.
Well, look at who they've been drafting. Have they had some misses? Sure. But so has every other team. Have they had a lot of successes? Yeah. Have they had successes later in the draft? Absolutely. Think Puka Nacua, think Kyren Williams, Lark Jackson was an undrafted free agent. And guys like this these are not guys that they went to the combine like, oh, I'll take that. That guy put up, 22 reps in the bench presser. He had the best shuttle run among, in line. It's like, who cares? They're able to find really good players in later in the draft. I think that's their secret sauce to it. They're, and they're picking high. They're doing pretty well there, whether it's a guy like Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, but you're always going to miss a few. Hopefully you get more right than you get wrong. And they have. And to your point, Doug, about kind of revolutionizing the way that these things go, look at what they did to the preseason. Now, not every team pulled their guys off the field, but about half the league does now, maybe even a little bit more than half, where it went from, you're going to play a little bit here and there. And the Rams have basically said, we're not playing anybody the entire time. We're just not going to do it. And about half the league has followed suit, and it clearly works for them. And clearly their combine strategy works for them as well.
And I think, too, just if I'm there, if I'm the Rams, like, I'm not trying to show my cards, even if it's something extremely, extremely minimal. It's like, I can get all this information anywhere. And if I go and I talk to a guy, I have eyes on a guy, it's almost like you kind of develop that bias towards him where it could influence your decision. Now, I'm not saying the combine is irrelevant. I mean, take a guy like Braden Fisk, who made himself a ton of money with his combine performance, and it was a big reason why I think he ultimately ended up on the Rams. I mean, you look at cornerbacks and defensive linemen on the 100-meter and things like that. I mean, it can be the difference between being a first, second round pick and a fourth and fifth round pick. Like, those results absolutely matter. But I think that from the Rams standpoint, like, you don't need to just be in the building and just flex around the rest of the league to be able to use the combine as an evaluation tool.
It's a TV show, and it's a TV show more for us than it is an evaluation tool for them. Like we said, like, if you want to know how fast the guy is, they will time him for you, and you can get the information, right? It doesn't have to be with your own two eyes. If you want to be there because you want to network and see, oh, okay, cool, fine. But this feels far more for something for the fans than it is. I put it to you this way, Doug. If my team went to the combine and came home with a guy they had no interest in going into the combine, I would be terrified. Like, what did they do in a couple of days running around that you didn't see in a few years of playing football against college level competition? I don't think that this is the place to go looking for your next big thing. I think you should already have that in mind before the combine starts.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. I mean, we know there's workout warriors, right? I mean, remember Mike Mamula, guys like that? I mean, like, oh my goodness, things like that. You know, I was looking up some of these like Vernon Davis types. I mean, there's always going to be those workout warriors, those combine merchants. I mean, of course, you got Jamarcus Russell throwing it 80 yards from his knees, and you know that whole story. So there's always going to be those guys. I mean, having said all this, am I going to watch like wall-to-wall coverage? I am. I mean, I think it was a T-Raj, Sweet Tea, People's Champ original, calling it the Underwear Olympics, right? Like, so, like, I mean, I'm here for it, but I'm also here for the reason why the Rams are participating to it.
Yeah, you watch it for me. You let me know if anything exciting happens. That this is one of these things I have never ever understood the value of this from an evaluation process, from a property standpoint, from a TV show. Look, the NFL is brilliant. We go from the combine to the draft to camp to games, and then we start back again with the combine. So there's always something coming up for the NFL, but the draft, I think, matters. All of this other stuff matters. This one, I just can't wrap my head around.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, you don't want to hear Rich Eisen kind of whispering like he's broadcasting the Masters like he's Jim Nantz. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Vernon Golston. Here's Vernon Golston. Yeah, exactly. There's unofficial time. Okay. Yeah, it's good times, but
we lifted it 41 times. The other guy only lifted it 33 times. Draft him in the fridge. Who cares, man?
Good times, man. We'll give you full coverage on the combine here at Locked On Rams. Tomorrow we'll get into those positions they need to be focusing on. Spoiler alert, cornerback, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. But that's going to do for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers, and catch him on his radio show, DeMarco and Travis, 3 to 6, ESPN LA 710. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.